role playing if that's what it takes to help get across to you. And really, it's just to give you some insights on some things that have worked over time and to make this more simple. I think that's what I try to do is that I try to make it a lot more simple. People try to make this thing complicated. The complicated part is disciplining yourself, is what we're going to talk about right now, is the consistency. What I find that most people struggle with in this business is disciplining themselves to be consistent. Consistency is the bottom line to production and success in this business. It really is. There's a lot of things you can throw in there, lead flow, all that, but consistency is what keeps all of that going, right? I mean, you could have, I believe it or not, I had an agent one time, and I don't know, I'm not sure to this day exactly what his plan was, but I remember one time he bought like $10,000 worth of leads, $10,000, not 10,000 leads, but $10,000 worth of leads, and never went out and made a phone call. He was doing it in anticipation of buying leads and then building a team and so on. It was a very difficult, it was kind of just bizarre to me a little bit. And he never did anything with them. We used him eventually and bought some of them off of him, but he was in my organization, two or three people, in one of my legs there. And could never figure out what his plan was. I guess he was getting ready to do something. He had a lot of money, right? And he was just looking at this as an opportunity, but never really did anything with it. So, but consistency is the key. And how do you be consistent, right? What do you do to be consistent, right? Well, number one, you have to have a why. I mean, you've heard this over and over again. There's a lot of people here who's heard it over and again. New people, what do you mean by a why? Well, a why is, what are you getting up in the morning for? Okay. Do you have a family? Do you have a goal? Do you have something you're trying to accomplish? Do you have a charity? Whatever it might be, what is the reason that you get up and make money every single day? I mean, if you had a regular job, you're in that job for a reason. You're trying to make a living, right? So there's a why behind that someplace. And it's got to be a pretty driving force why, right? Some people's are much more intense than others, okay? So the why starts it all. A lot of people are very competitive on top of that, right? Competition in people drives them. So there's people with the why to start with, and then there's a competitive spirit. I believe deep down, everybody has a competitive spirit. I don't know anybody that steps out every single day and says, I'm going to lose today. That's my goal, right? They don't say that. That's not what's going on in their head. They want to win. They just don't know how to win, right? They don't understand all the things they've got to do to win. And so where do you get that information and knowledge from? Hanging around and listening to people that are winning. I remember, I think they asked, Aristotle Onassis one time. I read a book one time. Aristotle Onassis was a big shipbuilder who married Jacqueline Kennedy after JFK was assassinated, and she married him. And they asked him one time about the secret keys to success. And they said, well, what would you do if you were, he was a really wealthy man. This was back in the 60s and early 70s. Really, really wealthy guy, shipbuilder. And they said, what would you do if you lost everything tomorrow? He said, well, the first thing I'd do is I'd go out and get a job. I don't care how much money I'm making, but make enough. And my first $500, I would go to the most expensive restaurant I could find. And they said, what are you talking about? And he said, I'd go to that restaurant and I'd sit down and I'd start listening. And they were asking, why would you go to a restaurant and blow your money? He says, I want to be around wealthy people, right? I want to hear what they're doing. I want to get to just listen to them and get information from them and hang around wealthy people. In other words, that was his beginning plan to gaining wealth again, right? Is to be around people who are wealthy. So in our business, you're around people on this daily call. You've got people in your organization. Are you intimidated by the people that are successful? And you're afraid to talk to them and ask them questions. I used to pester all kinds of people when I first got started in this business about how to do this business, and just pestered and pestered and pestered. I wanted to figure out, how do I get to the top as soon as possible? And that's the way I've always learned things is, getting around people that are more successful than me. So that's part of the key right there. So first you have to have a why, a desire. Then you've got to decide if you want to win. And if you want to win, how do you win? You watch and you respond to, you ask questions to people who are in a far better place than you are. And some people are afraid to ask those people and get around those people because they're intimidated. Let me tell you something. Intimidation is a great motivation. It's an excellent motivation. I can remember this is this one time in my life where things started changing for me as a young man. I grew up, we were quite poor, so I was intimidated by people that had money we were very poor in my hometown. And I didn't have a lot of positive self-esteem things going on in my life. And I remember I went in the military and I started sizing myself up to people in the military. And this is my first time out of the world, outside of my house. And I started going, okay, well, I can hang with that. I can hang with that and so on. And I remember some friends of mine asked me to get into a 10K race. And I wasn't in great shape at the time. I was okay shape, but not in great shape. And I didn't even have running shoes or anything. And they had challenged me. And the race was coming up in about 3 months. And these were three people that I knew that were runners. They ran every day. A 10K race is 6.2 miles. And I barely made a mile my first time out, running without stopping, right? And I was so terrified leading up to this race. I just ran every single day. I finally got up to about 6 miles after a couple of weeks of running every single day and just pushing myself and pushing myself. And every time I would run, I was living in Georgia. I would run at 11 o'clock at night because it was hot and that when nobody could see me either. So that was the other reason. Well, I ran and ran and ran. These guys, remember, these people were all experienced runners. And so we get in this race, and there's about 2,500 people in the race, and I'm terrified. I don't want to be embarrassed. I have no idea what my time is. I have no idea what's going on. I just ran every day, right? And just kept running. Well, that intimidation motivated me because I did not want to be embarrassed. And so when the race started, there's 2,500 people. I lost track of my friends and everything. And I'm just running and pushing myself through, and I get to the end and I'm getting my water. There's people mingling around and everything. I finished. They gave me my time, and I'm looking. I don't see my friends for about 2, 3, 4 minutes. Don't see them. Don't see them. Don't. I said, oh crap! I got smoked. They probably laughed all the way home. They already left, etc. And then all of a sudden, after about 5 minutes, and one of them comes trickling in, then the other one, then the other one. And I was like, they're looking at me, go, "You're done?" I said, "Yeah." And that intimidation drove me, that fear drove me, and I learned a huge lesson at that point. They were shocked. They couldn't believe. They thought they were going to just beat me down. I thought they were going to beat me down. But that fear pushed me, right? And so that was a huge lesson. I was about 20 years old at the time, and I'm like, wow, I can do more than I ever thought I could do. And it helped push me when I got into sales and intimidated into a sales meeting room, et cetera, my first sales job, and then realized before long, I was smoking everybody because I used that same philosophy. So it's a good thing to be fearful and be intimidated. Okay. So how do you be consistent in the long run? Because you got to have the basis for that. Well, you've got to understand how habits work. Habits can be formed by anybody. Bad habits and good habits. How do people get into bad habits? They do the same thing over and over again every single day, right? They just continue to do it. Like if you get into drinking or drugs or whatever, it turns into a habit, right? It turns into a nasty, nasty habit. Not going to the gym or going to do exercises gets you into a nasty habit, right? You get out of shape, and it's so tough. For those of you who try to stay in shape, it's so tough to get up every single day and do something, right? And stay into that habit. But what happens is when you stop, that's when it gets really, really difficult. Because when you stop and 2 days turns into 5 days, 6 days, 10 days, 25 days, well, you're in your 25th day and haven't done anything, boy, it's tough to get up and get after it again. So you've got to discipline yourself to do that. So what do? You find people that can encourage you. You're looking for people. You're looking for a group of people that can help push each other. Like when I was in the business, I had a group of people that I relied on that I would talk to. And one of them became, Rob, my partner and the co-owner of Equus. And he became one of my people that I would talk to on a regular basis, and we would push each other. We'd have good days, bad days, right? But you've got somebody to help pick you up, right? And so you have to learn how to create habits. It takes about 3 weeks to create a habit. One of the habits I had to create was getting up every Saturday morning and making phone calls. Did I like it? Heck no. Did I want to stay home and hang out with the kids? Of course I did. Of course I did. But I also wanted to provide them a halfway decent living. So that overrode my desire to sit home and do nothing. The easiest thing you can do is nothing, right? Hardest thing you can do is do something. But it changes. I don't care how old you are. It gets tougher as you get older, but I don't really care how old you are. Anybody can change where they are right now. So you have to make decisions followed by creating habits. And when those habits become a routine, you don't know any different. In fact, it gets to the point, I can remember that if I wasn't making dials on a Saturday morning, it felt kind of weird. It should feel uncomfortable. It should feel uncomfortable when you're not growing and developing. It should feel a little bit weird, and that's a good thing. Like if you don't work out and you're working out regularly, it should feel weird, right? Working out's not fun. The thing that about working out is you feel great when you're done. But doing it, it's generally not fun if you're doing it properly. It kind of hurts a little bit. But I just know that if I go 2 or 3 days and haven't done something, I feel weird. Something's not happening right in my body. And that's been going on for years and years now. I'm not like a Chuck Knotts kind of workout guy, but I'm certainly staying in pretty good shape. I do that. I force myself to do it. Okay. So you have decisions. You got to make those decisions. You create habits, and then you get into a routine, and that routine is basically that routine pushes you into your schedule. Your schedule is what you look at every single day. So I look at it like this. I've always used this analogy about a small business owner. I use a restaurant. You can use any restaurant. But if you're not open during the times that people are wanting to eat, like let's say you're a restaurant and you only want to open up at 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever, you're not going to get a lot of business. Or you're open at 11 o'clock at night. You're just not going to get a lot of business. If you're a restaurant and you're serving dinner hours, 5 o'clock to about 8:30, right? If you're not open during those hours when people are eating, I mean, you're probably not going to be successful. I don't like being open during those hours. Doesn't fit my schedule. Hello, right? So I use that as an example. Well, what's our business? Our business is doing money-making things during money-making hours. What are those hours? Generally from 9 to 9. Some people go earlier than that. They go 8 to 9, whatever, 8 in the morning to 9, whatever it is. It's doing those things during money-making times. Other times you get other stuff done, right? That's why Saturdays are huge. To me, Saturdays were my biggest day of the week because that's when I would make my phone calls. Now, virtual, you can do both phone calls and appointments that day. Why are Saturdays great? People are home, certainly in the morning for the most part, right? Right? And the tension of work is not on them. They're generally going to answer the phone more often on Saturdays than they would during the week. Why during the week? Because a lot of telemarketers are calling during the week. A lot of them don't call during the weekends. So you start thinking opposite of what everybody else. So all of those things will add up to results. I promise you that if you get into a consistent routine following your schedule and don't cheat yourself, you can't lose. You just can't lose. Now, I've sat down with many people over the years who claim they're struggling and they just can't figure out why they can't get consistency. And I'd sit down and I'd do one-on-ones with them. And I'd say, well, in order for me to have a discussion with them, and this is when everything was face-to-face, they'd come into my office and they'd have to bring their appointment book, right? So I can help them. And then I'd sit and look at their appointment book, and within 15 seconds, I knew exactly where the problem was, right? They were inconsistent in their dial days and their dials, which meant inconsistency in their appointments. They kept saying they were struggling. Well, the only reason you're struggling is because you haven't put the numbers in your favor, right? Our business, and this is what I put down in our discussion today. And Nick wrote this out, this part right here, logic over emotion. It's just numbers. Emotions destroy you in this business. I mean, here's the crazy part. Emotions drive you, first of all, to try to for your why. That's an emotional thing. But it can also kill you because you have this self-talk going on that is driven by emotions. I can't get a hold of anybody. They yell at me when I get on the phone. All those are emotional thoughts. When you realize it's just a numbers game, and when that finally clicks, the emotion sets aside, it's set completely aside for you to reach your goals. And I've always used this for people that haven't heard this before. Most everybody that's been here a long time. I've said this for years and years and years. You have to become numb to the process. What's the process? Your habits, your routine, schedule. That's the process. You have to become numb to it. Just part of the process and part of the numbers game. One thing I know, this business has never failed me. Ever, 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 ever. Every time I question the business, I remember one time I questioned after being in it for 10 years. That, gosh, I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean does that work? Been doing it for 10 years, Bill. Stop it. And it's easy for that to creep in. And before you know it, the business pays you back. It's when you go out and do that extra appointment that you think I'm about ready to give up, and you do that extra appointment and you make that one sale and you're like, oh, I think about this. When you're making dials and you're creeping up to making those dials and your guts are tore up and I got to make a phone call. I don't want to make a phone call, but you get that first person that's a positive response. It gives you so much energy, right? Been there, done that, folks. Done all of that, right? So you've got to understand that. Bottom line to all of it is all of it, okay? The numbers never fail. That's why everybody that you see that's been here 10 years are still here. They've all learned that lesson. Numbers never, ever fail. That's why Deanna, the Connor Jones, all these people, the Nick Burns, all of them have these numbers and they're that consistent is because they understand that it is a numbers game. You've heard it hundreds of times on these calls. So with that being said, let's open up. We got about 30 minutes. If you've got to raise your hand, and that way Hunter will release you because we're not going to just open it wide up. So if you've got a question, I saw somebody earlier had their hand up, so go ahead right there. Vinny.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I just bought a stack of Final Expense older leads, B leads. I was
Okay.
wondering some advice on how to start that conversation to transition into the on-the-spot appointment. I've been
Okay.
watching Nick Burns do it, but I think I don't know if that's just an A lead strategy versus a B lead strategy.
And whose team are you on, Vinny?
I'm on the Lampy group.
Okay. Man, I've known Bill for a long time, my friend. 20 years. 20 years I've known Bill Lampy. Um, Let me ask you a question. Have you been dialing mortgage protection first, or you been dialing this brand new for you to do final expense, et cetera? And why you're going to final expense?
So I've been doing all mortgage protection.
Okay.
I'm moving to Final Expense because I'm part-time. Right now I'm an
Okay.
engineer
Okay.
at my full-time job. I'm thinking I could get more production if I was running on the spot with Final Expense. And most of my sales have been between the ages of 60, 70 years old. So I figured it was fitting.
How old are the final expense leads?
These are 30 to 90 days old.
Okay. In your mind, is there a difference between a final expense lead and a mortgage protection lead?
I think the overall process is the same. I would think the only
Hold
thing
on.
different.
In your mind, is there anything different between the two?
I think yes, for the customer, I think it's a little bit different.
What's different?
I think a 60 to 70-year-old is thinking a little bit differently about insurance and policies than the 30-year-olds.
Well, here's the thing. You're putting your thought process into that equation. You have no idea what they're thinking. Okay? And what'll happen is when you put your own thought process into it like that, it'll create confusion in your brain and you'll get some sort of response from and you'll react differently than the way you should react because at the end of the day, and my my producer playbook that's coming out tomorrow is with Scott DeLong, and that's all they've done is final expense. We talk about there really is no difference between any lead. I don't care if it's an internet lead. One of the things that really holds people up, Vinny, is that they approach each lead a little bit differently. You should approach each lead almost exactly the same. Now, there might be 2 or 3 words that you're going to say differently as the introduction, but at the end of the day, why did somebody send in a final expense lead in the first place, in your opinion?
Because they need coverage and they know this is important.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because they wouldn't have filled out the application.
Right? We can assume that. Now, what about a mortgage protection? Why'd they send it in?
They know it's important and they should get more
What's the
information.
difference between the two?
When you put it that way, there's no difference.
Yeah. And so when you're calling them, you have to change the verbiage a little bit. But to me, I mean, if you've watched Scott and his team, they basically, their leads are pretty simple. And it's just a name on a piece of paper essentially that somebody responded to. And when I started calling older leads, I used to look at them differently than the A leads when I was getting back in the day when we lost, when the market crashed and we lost all the leads and everything. We had to call everything, including filing expense and telemarketed and leads that came in off the internet, whatever it was. All you do is just change the initial contact point. So if I was to call you on a 90-day-old final expense lead, here's how I would do it. Okay? Vinny.
Hello?
Hey, Vinny, this is Bill Martin. I'm calling about a request. You probably don't even remember it because it's been a couple of months ago, but a request about protection in case something should happen to you to pay off your final expenses. You
Oh,
probably
yes.
remember, right? You remember? Oh,
I do remember it vaguely.
okay. All right. Well, I'm the person that takes care of that for you, and they've got me handling this stack right here. You got a couple of minutes right now?
Yes, I have a couple minutes.
Is your wife there?
Yes, she is.
Can you get her over here too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Susie.
You see how I'm directing you and I'm not being a jerk or anything. I'm just getting right to the point. Now, suppose you say, I don't even know what you're talking about. Because you know what? Final expense people get leads constantly. They get phone called constantly. Okay. So you have to be prepared for that. How do I offset that? I'd say you're probably getting hammered. I would tell them that. If they gave me any resistance at all, I'd say you're probably getting hammered, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
don't
get
stop
all the
calling me.
time.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Okay. Let me ask you a couple questions. Have you talked to anybody yet? And I'm starting to I'm first get on your side. Gotcha. I'm on your side. Okay. Now, have you talked to anybody? I need to find out what's going on in the home and just have a conversation with you. Think about the person on the other end of the line as it's your uncle or your grandparents. How would you want to talk to them? Do you want to treat them like they're a mark, like they're my sale, or do you want to treat them like a human and be on their side, listen to them, be a little more empathetic, but also be a professional? Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And don't get caught up in all these long drawn out. If you start talking to them with too much of a scripty attitude, they're going to hang up on you because everybody that talks to them that week, they probably got called 6 times this week already with somebody giving them a script. Be different than that. Have a conversation with them. Be on their side. Understand that it's been a while. Understand they're probably getting hammered. You want to find out what's going on in the home. See, once I changed all that, people would talk to me. I was different than everybody else. That helpful?
That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Give it a whirl. And then remember this. Like I said, the numbers don't fail. You need to get better at talking to people. So you've got to watch yourself develop. If what you tried the first time doesn't work, try something a little bit different and then continue to work that direction. Eventually, you're going to get what we call the phone voice, and every single time you talk to somebody, it sounds exactly the same, and you sound like this guy that's supposed to call them every single time, and you're just like numb to the process. That make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Got it.
Thank you.
You got it. Dave. Dave where?
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me. Good morning.
No problem, Dave.
So I'm getting my butt kicked this week, and I'm considering going into the field just to mix it up a little bit. if you're getting, starting dialing Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're not getting what you're supposed to, do you recommend going into the field after that? And then if so, for someone who's done 95% virtual in my time here, I feel very nervous about in-home just because I haven't really done it. And what kind of strategies do you have for door knocking and being successful on that, since I haven't gotten the appointment sits that I've needed off the phone this week?
So what type of leads are you calling?
So my A lead order has been very down this week.
Okay.
Typically, I would do A leads. Most of my production this month has been off of A leads, but
Okay.
they just haven't been there. So I've been churning through the Kixie dialer, a lot of basically my legacy stuff that I haven't gotten to,
Okay.
and then also just some incomplete IVRs.
Okay. So you got incomplete IVRs. Are you getting any IVRs and that you call those VA leads? Have you tried? I know the Ethos leads are up and down too. So you're calling some a little bit older leads. You're trying to fill it whatever you can find, right?
I'm doing some direct mail. Is what my A lead order is direct mail.
Do you do any
Just
IVRs, A leads?
not recently.
Why not?
In my experience, they've been less of a knowledgeable client about what they signed on for. And so,
What does
um,
that matter?
what does that matter? Well, it's
When you
nice to
say
have
less of a knowledgeable, what does that mean?
just meaning that they didn't know what the card was about. The direct mails spell it out a little bit more
Well, there's no question. That's why
directly.
they cost more. So I was curious.
Right.
Now, there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that perfected IVRs. How do
hmm
you think they did that? Because they ran into the same problem that you are running into them. What do you think they did to perfect that?
Listen to a lot of Olivia Thompson on her dial sessions because she's
Okay,
an
there you go.
assassin.
You got a pro, right? Why do
So,
you think in your mind? Because here's the crazy part. Like I said, I talked about it earlier. You got to watch your thoughts because your thoughts are going to direct you and you're going to believe your thoughts. They may
mhm,
not be reality though. Okay.
sure.
So here's the thing. What's the difference between an IVR lead and a mail-in lead?
The mail-in lead, they're having to go through the extra effort to fill it
Yeah.
out and mail it in.
And what do you get from an AIVR? What do you know about an AIVR?
Well, they're calling a number and going through a prompt system.
Okay.
And
So if
then,
they got all the way through on an A lead, they have to have a little bit of knowledge about why they did that, or they wouldn't be able to say it. It'd be an incomplete. It wouldn't be a complete, right?
sure,
Okay. So what's different between the two then?
them finishing the prompt system.
I'm talking about they finished the prompt system.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's the difference between that and a mail-in then?
Suppose they'd be pretty similar then, wouldn't they?
Wouldn't they? And maybe your thought process is affecting you on those IVRs, possibly. Now, I'm not taking away from the fact that going in the field might not be a bad idea. I don't know what your lead flow is. If you've got enough lead flow in your backyard, you could do any lead in face-to-face, okay? Any lead whatsoever. And have you been trying any of the Ethos leads?
Um, I did probably about 2 months ago.
Okay, and you probably stopped them because they're harder to call.
Correct.
Okay. But they're the easier sale in the long run because these people have actually gone on. It's just getting a hold of them is the problem. That's what everybody
hmm
says that uses them. Now, I've
hmm
never used an Ethos lead. I'm just going by all the other leads that I've ever tried before. Okay. Um, I think part of it might be it's easy to get into the mailback leads. Trust me. When I got started, it was addicting. I didn't have any other leads but mailback leads, and I was going face to face. And when those shut off, you talk about a shock to the system. I mean, there were people that quit left and right because it was the simplest thing you could possibly do, right? You could door knock them, you could call them, didn't make any difference. These people hand filled it out, right? That was almost my first 2 years in the business was mailback leads. They were coming in flows. That's before the market crash, right? So after that, I had to learn everything else or I wasn't going to survive. So here's what I know, David. This might help. And I've talked about this a lot of times. You have to understand, even though that person what do we know about the person on an IVR lead? What do we know?
They purchased a mortgage and they're curious about what this form that
They
came in
might
the
not
mail
even be
was. Yeah.
curious.
Okay.
What do we know about them? We don't know if they're
They,
curious.
okay.
We know that they purchased a mortgage and have a potential debt.
Hmm.
Now, does that not seem like an opportunity to at least ask a couple questions to see if they are concerned?
Sure.
Okay. Now, we also know this, that people are hammered by robodialers, etc. They're going to treat you just like one of those people because you're treating them like they are one of those people, your prospect. If you start thinking differently about when you call somebody and put yourself in their shoes, try this on an IVR. I don't care if it's incomplete or whatever, because I know that they have a debt right now.
Hmm.
So kind of get them off the defense a little bit early in your call. In other words, I would call you and I'd say,
Yes. Hello.
Dave, this is Bill Martin. I'm calling you about your loan with First Bank, about the mortgage. Now, you've probably got a lot of phone calls or whatever, but you were online, you were on the phone and went through a prompt system. Do you remember doing that? Ask them some questions about mortgage protection?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, all right. Now, I don't know how many calls you got or what you think's going on exactly, but I'm the person that helps explain this to you. Has anybody explained it to you?
One guy was supposed to, but we just couldn't make the schedules work.
Perfect. Is your wife at home right now?
She's not.
Okay, what time will she be home?
Probably about 6:30.
I'm going to take a few minutes with both of you. I have no idea if this makes sense. Well, all I can tell you is this, when you're done with me, you'll know whether or not this makes sense to you or not. And I tell them, I don't ask them, does that work for you, et cetera. I say, I'm going to call you and then see if this makes sense. And I'm directing the whole thing. All right. I'm not rude to you. I'm on your side because I know you've probably gotten a lot of calls. This isn't a solicitation, right? You've got a debt. I know that. And let's see if this even makes sense to you. It will or it won't. Okay. Now, to the other part of your question, it may make sense for you to go face to face. I don't know. But what's the difference between face to face and virtual?
It's face to face.
Yeah, you got to wear pants. Other than that, what's the difference?
The thing
I
I
don't
was
even know
just
what it's like to do virtual, but I can tell you I've adapted pretty darn quickly because
sure,
it's the same presentation. It's just like
sure,
talking to you right now. I mean, it's the same presentation. I mean, I talk to you sitting, if you and I having a cup of coffee, I'd be talking to you the same way,
sure.
face to face.
My question was more centered on the if I'm going from a purely door knocking approach when it comes to doing it in person, just for people I haven't been able to get on the phone,
I love door knocks.
just door knock it, hold up the lead. This is what you guys
You
filled
see me do
out.
it then. You see
That's
it.
it.
Yeah. I just knock on the door and I hold the lead out. When I used to do
Yeah.
door knocks, I did them in between appointments and I would knock on the door and I go, hi, you George? Yeah. And I would just hand them the lead. They'd sit there and look at it. So I've been trying to get a hold of you about this. You're probably one of those people that never answer their phone, right? Yeah, I know. Your wife at home? I walk myself into the house.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just use the lead, okay? Whether it's a mailback lead, whether it's an IVR, doesn't mean if you've got the IVR, it's got all their information on it, blah, blah, blah. You got a mortgage with so-and-so, okay? You were on the phone for 4 minutes, went through this prompt system. I happen to be in your area, okay? Let's take a few minutes. It'll develop a skill level to take you to another level. Are you scared?
Sure.
Awesome. That's the best. Every time you've ever faced a fear, Dave, and went through it, what happened?
Got better.
Got better. You should be scared, and it's okay. Just like when I was terrified when I went out for that run. You know how embarrassing it is? You've got three friends and they think they're going to smoke you, and you're scared to death of being embarrassed. And that's why I ran harder because I didn't know. I had no idea, and I outran them. Okay. So I think it'll develop a new level of skill for you. Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
You got
Appreciate
it.
it.
Joshua. I see Joshua's hand up.
Yep.
There you go.
Perfect. Thanks, Bill. And
Yeah.
just full disclosure, I do have pants on. So, yeah, so I have a question. It's a little bit long, so bear with me here. But like, what's the best transition? Sometimes I get stuck with people who are in their 60s and 70s who have a new mortgage of, 250, 300, and they're clearly looking to cover the entire mortgage.
Mhm.
But one, either the short-term policy, it's only 10 years, it won't cover 30. Or they might not medically qualify for a term, so now you're transitioning to the equity protector, but yet they might not have equity in the home yet. So when they have that objection of, I thought this was going to pay for the whole thing, what's the best way to transition over to trying to get that equity protector to just protect them for a year, 9 months, 18, whatever the case may be that we go over all the time?
Well, full disclosure, if all I got with those, that's all I would take. And the crazy part is a lot of people take those and they go, these are the hardest. But if that's all I ever got, if I had a choice, that is the exact lead I would take every time. I wrote so many of those.
I like them when it makes sense for them and they're there, but when they
How
want,
do you know they make sense? Okay, let me ask you this. What are you saying to them? How are you handling it right now?
so I mean, if they qualify for something, then I'm
If they
definitely.
don't qualify.
If they don't qualify,
I
then
want the ones that don't qualify. I want the ones that only qualify for final expense.
I just tell them, currently based off of your age and your health, you're just unfortunately not able to qualify for the full coverage like we talked about when you filled this out like you thought you may get. But what we are able to do is help, Miss Betty not have every bill fall into her lap day.
How do you do that? Tell me, pitch it to me right now. I'm that person. How do you explain that to me? What do you say?
So, Bill, based off of kind of everything that we went over, with your current age and your past health conditions, you don't qualify for the full protection of this entire mortgage. But what we are able to get you protection on is we can help Betty not have to worry about those bills and everything falling under her day one if something happens to you. She'll have her time to be able to grieve, and we'll be able to at least be able to cover the mortgage for a set amount of time. So what we can do now is go over the options of what you think. We can ask Betty what her
Is
thoughts.
that how you do it every time?
Yeah.
You never ask me a question.
That's when I was about to lead into the questions of Betty.
You should have already asked a dozen questions before that.
Okay. So when I find out right away they don't qualify, what would be the best question to turn
I don't
around?
even know if I tell them they don't qualify. When I have somebody that's in that situation, and I will tell them something like this, they're smart enough when people in their 60s and 70s
Mhm.
say, you know what, insurance is expensive. You've probably already seen some quotes, right?
Yep.
I'd love to cover the whole thing. In fact, I could probably find a company that would cover you, even with your medical conditions. But you tell me, you'd laugh me out of your house.
Right.
Okay? So let me ask you a couple questions. And I'm going to talk to you right now. Okay?
Sure.
Betty, I'm not talking to Josh. Let me ask you a question. If Josh dies tomorrow, what do you want to have happen?
I want the house to be paid for.
Okay. Now, we could probably do that, but you would be cost more than your mortgage. You're going to tell me no, right?
Most likely.
Okay. Do you know what happens, Betty, if he dies tomorrow and you don't make a payment for 90 days? What happens?
Foreclosure.
Okay. What are you going to do?
I don't know. We'll just have to figure it out. Like I don't.
Well, we better figure it out right now because that could happen tomorrow. Right? I mean, I'm not trying to be ugly or anything,
Yeah.
right? You know that. That's why you're talking to me right now. So what's your plan?
I don't have a plan.
Okay. What do you want to have happen? You'd like to have the house paid off. Okay. Well, here's what a lot of people in your situation do, Betty. And I'm not even talking to Josh.
Mhm.
Here's what a lot of people do in your situation, Betty, and I help a lot of people do this. Their biggest concern is making sure they can protect the house as long as possible. See, the biggest problem is when somebody loses somebody, is that there's a lot of confusion going on, a lot of emotion, and the last thing they want to deal with is finances. I'm sure you'd be the same, right?
Yes.
You don't want to deal with that. I get it. Okay. What I've done for a lot of people is we can put a policy in place that I know you can get based on what you told me health-wise, that we can maybe pay for your house for a year or 2 years or 3 years. One thing we can do is if there's any equity in the house, we can protect the equity or and protect the house until you decide what you want to do. This is what a lot of people do in your situation. I run into it all the time. So it might be a year's worth of payments. It might be 2 years, whatever it might be, right? Your mortgage is $1,500 a month. I could put a $30,000 policy in place, take care of it roughly for 2 years, right? But here's the thing. You get to make the decisions, right, on what's going to happen to you instead of somebody else making those decisions because you're not going to be in a position to make decisions right away, are you?
No.
Okay. Well, then you'd have control and you can decide whether you're going to sell the house, move in with your kids, move into a condo or what it might be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see what that's going to run. Dude, all the time.
Right. No, I get it. And I'm either half and half. Either it's good or
But you've got to get that out of them. You're already going into your sales pitch.
Gotcha.
You know, see what I'm saying? And you got to make it more realistic.
Mhm.
Put it in their shoes. Don't talk to them like a sales guy, like this is right? Talk to them like you're talking to them like your son. This is the way I would talk to my mom.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
No, absolutely.
Okay. Give that a whirl and then direct the questions at the one who's going to get hurt. One of the questions that I tell people that you really got to get used to asking is questions like this. What do you want to have happen? In other words, what do you want this picture to look like when I leave? I had a doctor one time, really, doctor, and was doing this kind of thing while I was doing my presentation, like, and I get done with the presentation, I asked some questions, and he was very tight-lipped and so on, and he finally gets done. He goes, well, I'll take your information under consideration, and just give me your card, and I'll get back to you, right? And so I looked at his wife. I said, well, let me ask you, what do you want to have happen if I leave here and he gets killed in the ice tomorrow? I looked right at her. I didn't even listen to him. And he started butting in. I said, you're dead. And I had a good relationship with him at that point, but you're dead. And I wanted to hear I said, yeah, I'll give you 2 photographs. One that you do this and take care of the problem, okay, and you're protected, or the photograph B, I leave here, you're not protected, you get killed in the ice tomorrow. What do you want me to leave the house with?
An application.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
I can see you've got the savvy to do this. Just slow down a little bit and ask more questions.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And draw it out of them. Get them emotions. Find the pain. Okay?
Yep.
Got it. I probably got time for one more question. Good questions, by the way. So, any other questions? Go raise your hand if you do. If you got there we are. Okay. Got Laura, and then we'll do Laura, and then we'll get to is it Alita? We'll get to her. So Laura first.
I don't really have a question. I'm still waiting on my writing numbers. I
Oh.
just want to say this is awesome training. Thank you, because I'm coming back. I'm old school. I used to run knock doors long
Yep.
time ago, and so I'm coming back. And I've never had any kind of training like this. So this is awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to get my writing numbers and get going.
Go for it.
Thank you. That's
And
all I
face
had
your
to
fears.
say.
Face your fears. It's the best
Yep.
thing. Yep.
Thank you.
You got it. Alicia. Is it Alicia? Yeah. Okay. Or Alita. Okay, I got it. Okay, I couldn't see it. I don't have my glasses on. There we go. Hey, Alita.
Hi, I had some training. What's happened is I have was sit on an appointment and going, I already build the value, everything, sit down with the clients, we're going through. Both of them was there, was the spouse and the women and the men was there, right?
Yeah.
And then they was agree to what they was going to get because they like the value that I build there and everything. We starting going into the application and everything. They give me the information, everything, and then the daughter working, and then just like mom's dad, I don't think this is necessary. She just come in and blocked me, and the woman was ready to move forward, and the men, because they see the value of the protection that they're gonna have, and I was keep focusing and calling the name like Mrs. Elma. Do you do you what the word I said? So her, okay, so I said, Mrs. Elma, so you make sure that this protection that you're gonna have in place is going to be taken care of Mr. Pete. If he was to pass away, you make sure that he have this protection taking care of the monthly payment, and vice versa. If Mr. Pete was to pass away, you have something to make those payment during this time. And they was like, yeah, we don't want to leave a burden behind or nothing.
Sure.
But then the lady just, the data working and just stopped like the
And how old was the daughter?
I would say it's probably she like 40,
Okay.
40,
14 or 40?
40, 40, yeah.
And she was living with them?
No,
She just happened to
she
be
just
there.
walking to, yeah.
Okay. She wasn't part of the presentation in the first place.
No, no, she
Yeah,
just walked
that's
in.
that can always cause problems, but the only thing you can do to save something like that in that situation, if they weren't all involved from the beginning and you had them part of the presentation asking what's going to happen, I would have stopped her right there and I would have asked her, what is her plan right now? That's fine. You don't want to fight her. You start fighting,
Mm-hmm,
you're done. So we
mm-hmm.
get it on her side. So, yeah, I understand how you feel. You just want to protect mom and dad, and that's all I'm trying to do is help them also. Let me ask you a question, okay? Let's assume that they don't do this. What's going to happen? And let her tell you what her plan is. She may have a plan in her mind. Well, we can take care of this. We can look something down the road, etc. No, what I'm saying is tomorrow, if something happens, what's the plan? Because you don't know if you've got tomorrow. What is the plan in place right now? And start putting her in that situation and bring her in emotionally and find out what her pain is. And I would have shifted it over to her. And then you could have helped her. And then who knows, she may even have bought a policy from you. Because I've had that where kids have barged in and before you know it, they're buying a policy. Once I say, well,
Okay,
you want to wait till it costs you $200 a month like it's costing your parents? You want to get it when it's 40 right now.
right.
Okay.
Okay,
But in
thank
some
you so much.
cases, you may not be able to do anything but just try. That's all you can do. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate
Got
it.
it. And one last one, and we'll finish with Terry.
Thank you, Bill. Great call.
Yeah.
I'll be brief. My situation, it sounds more like Vinny. I work part-time and I was looking at final expense because it's, you get them on the call,
Yeah.
you get it done. And that's what I've been doing so far. After listening to Olivia's call yesterday, I'm thinking maybe I want to put some mortgage protection in there. My biggest challenge is those numbers, kind of figuring out those 3 number tier to make that happen. But that's my
I
concern.
plugged the zone. It didn't matter to me. All I wanted was a pile to talk to and make the numbers work. Because if you look at it, no matter what your investment is, Terry, it's just a matter of time, right? So in other words, if I spend $1,000 on A mortgage leads, or I spend $1,000 in a bunch of $1 or $2 leads, my results are going to be similar. I just got to make a heck of a lot more dials on the older ones. So the investment dollar amount is about the same. The investment time is considerably different. Okay, but they all work. I mean, Terry, and I talked about this yesterday, and I've talked about this 100 times. You can stand on a street corner and do our business. It's the way this business was before there was any lead programs. Lead programs didn't come out until 40, 50 years ago. At most of the time, it was just the insurance companies just hired a bunch of people to go talk to people that they know and knock on cold doors. That's the way it was. That's the way I got started in the business for the most part was cold doors. I had some rinky-dink lead program. But you could make a living without buying a lead in our business. The reason people are here is because we have leads. You at least got somebody raising their hand, might be from three months ago, 6 years ago, whatever. But at one point they said, you know what? I may want to talk about a death benefit. But if I put you on a street corner anywhere USA and you sat there all day and there was enough flow of traffic through there and you just had a smile on your face and you just asked one person after the next, have you thought about a death benefit to protect your family? Have you thought about a death benefit? Somebody's going to go, that's weird. My wife and I were just talking about that 2 nights ago. That'll happen. And you'll go, well, maybe. We'll see. So you can set appointments that way. So if that's true, which it is, all leads work. Because at least you had something in common at one point where they said, I might be interested in talking about a death benefit.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
You got it. All right. Okay. I'll do one more and I'm done. Angie, go ahead. No, God, Chuck Saxton. Angie, go ahead. I'll do Chuck too. Go ahead. I'll do Angie, then Chuck.
No,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
I don't know how my hand got up. I was
Okay.
just saying thank you. My apologies. I'll take it down.
You got it. I'll take it home with Chuck Knox. Go ahead, Chuck.
What's up, Bill? So, dude, I've been reinvigorated with the DeLong team and how they all do in-home. All right. So for let's say all new people, joining Equus that are trying to make virtual work and they're kind of having a tough time, what do you think about them going out and actually door knocking and getting in front of people and trying to master the craft like so many of us veterans here at Equus have done throughout the years to be really good at virtual?
Yeah, I think in-home helps you get better at virtual. Okay. I really do. I think it would help a lot of those people. As you know, Chuck, the only reason that we do virtual for the most part is so people have access to the lead flow they need to hit their numbers. They're not just locked into their counties around them. Now, my radius was 4 or 5 hours from where I lived. And I did that for most of my career. I would do face to face. The downside to face is the driving time. You lose a lot of time. So there's a give and take. What's the give and take? The give and take is you've got to spend a lot of time on the road that's wasted that you could be spending on the phone. So you spend more money on leads, but you spend less time wear and tear in your car, gas, away from home. Those are the upside, downside to both of those. But as far as it from a perspective of learning how to interact with people, gosh, I don't know how you beat face to face. You can't hide. You're there in front of them.
Absolutely.
Right? So if I've got a bunch of people that want to give that a whirl, I'd encourage it if there was enough lead flow around there. Right?
Yeah. I think through the Integrity Lead Center, we have so many leads available to us that, it makes it gives us an excuse to sit behind a computer screen and not go out there and make it happen throughout the week, especially if we're not hitting our numbers, right?
Yeah, it's a whole nother world, as you know, when you hit the
100%.
Yep.
100%.
100%. So no, I have no problem with it. Well, at the end of the day and the end of this call, what's this call all about? Results. Doesn't matter to me or you or anybody else. If you're getting the results that you want and desire and you need, that's at the end of the day is going to work. And if that's face to face, great. If it's virtual, great. If it's a hybrid, doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to anybody.
We're in this business to make a bunch of money. No matter what it takes.
Take care of
right?
families first. Money comes later. But you take care of families, Chuck. That money comes.
There you go.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Bill. Appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody. Hope that was helpful, everybody. Take care. See ya.